Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to regular webinar of Silverline Real Estate, in which we comment on actual situation in the residential real estate market in the Czech Republic currently, where we have all our investments, as well as on our results currently for the whole year of 2022. We have in front of us roughly some 30 minutes in which I will walk you through the contents. And after that time, we have some dedicated time for Q&A. And although we have some frequently asked questions prepared at the end of the presentation to facilitate the discussion, I would also very much welcome if you think about your potential topics and questions during the presentation. Let me, since I have seen that I still don't know many of you who have registered to this webinar, let me maybe start with a short introduction. My name is Dan Vesko, and I'm one of the three co-founders of the qualified investor fund, Silverline Real Estate. We are a fully regulated fund in the legal form of so-called QIF. And this fund is 100% owned by three physical people, persons that are not interconnected in any way with some investment funds or investment intermediaries. Us three as the founders have met in a global management consulting firm, and we have served private equity firms in the past, which I think has created in some way and nurtured basically our DNA in the way that we are very analytical, and we are also very internationally oriented. Which is something that I believe will also form the fund in the future. We do invest only in our own projects. By that I mean that we do not lend money to other developers. We prefer to manage the project ourselves, to have perfect control over the outcomes, the budgets, and also the timelines of the project. So it is in any of the projects that we are running, one of the founders of the fund who directly oversees the project. We have been in the market as a small developer since 2015. The company has been incorporated in 2016. And we, as the business has grown over time, we have turned it into a fully fledged regulated fund on the verge of 2021 and 2022. At this point of time, we already have a fully diversified portfolio within the Czech Republic, meaning in terms of the regions and in terms of the asset types. And what we will strive for in the future is to also diversify internationally. First in the region of Central Europe, and in later step also throughout Europe and potentially US, which are also the two world regions, two continents that we have defined in our fund statute. When we started the fund, we had basically three ambitions on how to disrupt the Czech real estate market. The first ambition was to deliver consistently double-digit returns to our investors. Second ambition was to become the fund in residential real estate with the highest return in the market. And then lastly, the third one, just to anchor it without broader competition of ours, was to systematically place in top 3 to top 5 out of total 30 funds that are present across all segments of real estate in the Czech Republic. And all these three goals is something that we have accomplished in the first year of our operations in 2022. Since we are fully aware of the fact that it's not only the return, but it's even more so the security of the investment, we also have a protection mechanism for our investors in the way that in case that we would not fulfill the target of the fund at any point of time in the future, all historically generated profit of the fund would be redistributed towards investors. So in another form, we say that the founders can be remunerated only once investors get the targeted return of the fund. We have a strong capital commitment to the fund as well. In particular, that's about 3 million euro, out of which vast majority of this money has been already deposited by the end of last year into the fund, roughly some 2.8 million euro, and the rest will be deposited throughout 2023. It comes natural with us that we want to be really transparent, and we want to cooperate with renowned partners in the market. And that's why we are managed and administered by the oldest and one of the largest investment companies in the Czech Republic, Amista. And we are also distributed by one of the most known and largest stockbroker in the market, Consec. As mentioned, at any point of time, in case you would welcome more information, also such that such as some profit and loss statements, balance sheets of ours, or some models on how we do appraise our properties and the value of our portfolio, happy to share at any point of time as well. So how it all started? Let's just go back to the year of 2015, which was known as the year that real estate started to appreciate in the Czech market. And back at that time, I've seen an opportunity in the market that was basically very attractive because of two reasons. First, there were the short-term rentals as a new segment in the market, and they came back then with pretty high yields, also due to very low supply of such offers in the market. And second, I've also seen at that point of time that the Czech GDP has already increased over some period of time, but the real estate prices have not, because the sentiment of Czech investors after the global financial crisis was just turned in the way that for some point of time they have neglected real estate a bit. So there was a huge potential for increase of real estate prices if we compare it to the local purchasing power. And at that point of time, I have invested in 4 first investment properties, renovated fully these properties. We did with our team a little bit of home staging. We have put those on the typical short-term rentals platforms such as Airbnb and Booking. Integrated also those platforms at once. Such property started to generate cash flow, we have divested it to investors. And such properties operated on short-term rentals that generated very nice returns to investors. They're quite strong in demand. So we have scaled up the business consequently, step by step, until we reached some lower tens of properties that we basically renovated and resold in the market as a cash-generating asset. So from individual properties, we also went on renovating some parts of old hotels or some um, all elderly office spaces that we remodeled into such apartments. That went all the way until 2020, when the business was fully transformed into residential development, because there was a huge lack of um, new developments in the market. And only 1 year later, we have already 5 running projects within the fund, currently funded with an equity of roughly 3 to 4 million euro. And we are already striving for the next step, which is to become a mid-sized developer in the broader region of Central Europe, so that we would be able to focus on larger projects, let's say set a series of apartment buildings that can even create some new districts in the regional capital cities of Central Europe. And later on, of course, also within broader Europe and North America. So that's, I think, it for the short introduction of Silverline Real Estate and why we actually think that an investment in residential real estate in the Czech Republic is very attractive and makes a lot of sense. The primary reason for that is that Czech market has seen a very low intensity of construction in residential real estate over a long period of time. And by that, I mean the full decade between 2012 and 2021. The intensity was by 30% lower than what comes as an average on the level of European Union. And this has actually turned into a huge deficit of supply in the market, especially in the larger cities such as Prague, Brno, or Pilsen, for example, but we can also say that this is valid for all the regional capitals within Czech Republic. And because the deficit is so high, we already now know, being in the year of 2023, that at least until 2030, this market will be very attractive for new residential developers, so that they would try to offset and a little bit balance the demand and supply in the market. But of course, as it comes, there is an economic cycle that we also need to take into account. And we knew very well that during COVID, the market has, as many others globally, just a little bit did a little bit overheat in the way that the property prices went up a bit higher than what is usual and what might be even healthy for this market. So back in 2022, in the first half, there was a question of what could happen to the market if there is a recession, let's say, in the economy, and the economy would slow down, which is actually what happened then in the second half, or better to say in the last quarter of 2022, that the Czech economy actually got into a mild recession. And by now, we already know the answer to the question in the way that we have seen that the market segmented a bit. On one way, we are seeing that the new developments, as well as building plots, keep a stable price in the nominal, if we express it in nominal terms. Whereas it's only the elderly real estate market, which are not really energy efficient, in which there is no such lack of supply. And it's also the segment when the owners of such real estate have seen quite nice capital gains in the past, so they have some space to make at least some marginal discounts, and that's what we are exactly now seeing in the market, and what will most likely also continue throughout 2023. And if we turn the page into a more granular point of view of what has been happening with the market in the last few months, we can see on the left-hand side of the chart that the peak of the decline in the market was around November, and during the autumn month. Many of Czech consumers were pretty much scared what will happen to the energy prices at that point of time. And since we are now in a new situation that the energy prices seems to be under control, and that the Czech economy is slowly, step by step, getting out of the recession, very mild recession, we are seeing a change in the trend once again, from decline to stabilization, and most likely towards the end of this year, we will see again just a comeback to the typical growth path of real estate prices. And that's fully in line also with the offer of apartments in the markets, which is on the right-hand side of this page, where we see that throughout most of 2022, this has been increasing quite significantly. Where many of the buyers thought that this is a good time to sell. And in the last 3 months or so, this has changed once again. So the buyers know that currently there are some discounts which might not repeat in the future. Now is a good time to buy, and they are step by step coming back to the market. And what is even more striking in this, if we in this situation, is that on the side of supply, over the last 5-6 months, we have seen not only a decline of the number of apartments that has started their construction, but there has been also a decline in new building permits. Which means that in the near future, if we speak about the next 1 or 2 years, we are seeing that we will have even a larger lack in supply of new developments. And the building permits are even more alarming because we know that it really takes time to obtain a building permit and then to complete the apartment as such in the market. So at least until the end of 2024, we already by now know that the supply will be really limited. We then take a step back and look at the broader picture of what might be happening to the real estate prices in the Czech Republic. Pretty similar to what the Czech National Bank is thinking about the markets is reflected or are also our thoughts at Silverline. In particular, we do think that there is, let's say, the local trough that we are approaching right now in the spring month, and that might potentially last until early summer. Let's say June, because once we get to a situation that the interest rates will start falling, and the Czech market is a little bit ahead of the global markets in the cycle, because we have been one of the first globally that have raised interest rates. So the decline is expected currently already for a fall of 2023. This naturally has a huge effect on the residential real estate market. Such cuts would naturally translate into recovery of the market, and we believe that the market will come back to its natural growth path, which lies around 2.5 to 4%, potentially a little bit slower than the growth of our nominal incomes. That's because in any way the real estate prices in comparison to the local purchasing power are pretty much already stretched. So there isn't a huge chance that the real estate prices would increase in a faster way than our nominal incomes. So this is pretty much the outlook, and the investors who will enter the market at this point of time in the first half of 2023 should most likely benefit of the best timing to get into the market. And by that, I can only say that as a developer, also for us, it's a perfect time to start new projects, as still in the today's market, we are able to get some discounts on our acquisitions, and the construction firms are not so busy as they were in back in 2021. So we can also negotiate reasonable prices with on the delivery of such a construction. And that then connects with the fact that once such new projects that we start in this year will get to the market, which will be like around 2025 in our case, we already expect that the Czech economy will be in a little bit better shape, and also the global economy, and the interest rates might be lower than in comparison with the today's situation. So let's take a break from the real estate market as such, and let's also mention at least a few words about our fund. I believe that we are unique in the way on how we select projects in our portfolio. As mentioned in the very beginning of the presentation, we are very much analytical. And this is what we translate into the selection process. We do review some lower tens of opportunities on a monthly basis. We are discussing those with our architects, and we are discussing those also with the respective authorities in the market, so that we can distill some options on the final solution. And once we have such options of and maybe the preferred option of such a solution, we do build a robust business case towards it. And only when we see that all the risks of the projects are in our own hands and can be managed, and that there is a really very attractive margin on the project, which typically is only one project out of, let's say, mid-tens of opportunities that we see, then only in such case we do invest in the projects. And when looking at the portfolio as it stands today, we have roughly 50% of current capital placed in the so-called building plot segment. Building plots are one of the most scarce asset types in the Czech market. It is so scarce that even in a time of recession, building plots are not only keeping their prices, but there is at least a mild increase of the prices. And this is because we have such large cities that don't have the possibilities for new development, to have any more new developments within the borders of the cities. So such cities need to expand, and there is a scarcity of land, and that's where we come and we purchase the land in bulk. We do build the technical and infrastructure and the driveways. We do separate out the land into the building plots, and then we resell the building plots. What is nice about this segment is also that most of our buyers come in cash, so they are not really in any way influenced by the, let's say, temporarily higher interest rates in the market and the lack of financing, or let's say rather more expensive financing in the today's market. So, and then the other half of our portfolio comes in a very good mix of other apartment types, which are typically in the center of larger cities, in some apartment houses that we are fully renovating, and also typically expanding the floor area of such apartment houses. On the other way, as I mentioned, we are also pretty much diversified already in terms of Czech regions. Roughly half of the portfolio is in Prague and the surroundings, and the other half is then in some selected Czech regions, also some larger cities. Every time it is a city that has at least 100,000 in population. As for our first segment, we currently have 3 such projects where we are developing the building blocks, and we're seeing some examples of 2 in Vysoké Újezd, very close to Prague, where there is one of the most prestigious golf course in the Czech Republic. The other being Villa Struhatov, which results in 8 building plots dedicated also for some, let's say, nice detached family houses that will be built on the building plots. And it's also a very nice area close to Prague, with beautiful nature and one of the most prestigious elementary schools in immediate proximity to this location. In the second segment, we currently have 2 projects, one in Ostrava, one in Pilsen. It's full renovations of apartment houses with significant extensions of the floor area, as I've mentioned. So on the example of the Pilsen apartment house, it comes currently the building with 3 floors. And we're adding 2 new floors on top of the building, so that in total we are expanding the floor area by 60%, which then makes a nice business case for our investors and also for the founders of the fund. Naturally, as we go, we also build a pipeline, and we are staying in our segments. So out of the 3 opportunities that went all the way through our due diligences already, meaning the commercial, legal, and also technical DDs that we have, 2 opportunities are in the segment of building plots. Both of these are in immediate proximity to Prague again. And we have then 1 sweet opportunity also in Brno, in the very downtown of Brno, a complete renovation of an apartment house with 18 small-scale units, which can be then after the renovation used to rent. And that's exactly the type of business where we see currently a lot of growth and a lot of local demand. All right, so that was the portfolio, and then if we translate it into actual results for our investors, this is what our investors got in 2022. So we have generated a net return of 10%, which is the 3rd most attractive return in the Czech market out of roughly 30 funds that are present. This return was generated in the stock class A, and this all of our stock classes have also the protection mechanism, as I described in the beginning of the presentation. You can also notice that within the developer funds or all the funds that are focused only on residential real estate, we have placed even the first in the market in terms of the return. And the 10% is also the return that we expect for the whole year of 2023. Here comes the proposition as such. As mentioned, we are a qualified investor fund, which means there is a minimum requirement on the investment, which is 1 million Czech crowns. As per Czech regulation, that's roughly 40,000 euro. Although our investment horizon is 5 years, we have a 0 exit fee already after 36 months. We have currently 2 investment classes, or stock classes, in our stock class A, we are offering a 10% preferred return, meaning that the protection mechanism for the investors is on the 10%, but there is no upside in this stock class. Whereas in the stock class B, we have a preferred return of 7%. So the protection mechanism is on 7, but investors can benefit in this class also from a 50% upside on the overall return that has that the fund generated beyond the 7%. So for example, if the fund generates 15% overall, such investor would get 11% in net return. And all these returns in stock class A and stock class B are also compounded. We are also making our appraisals of the portfolio on a quarterly basis. So that's also the same frequency in which we accept new deposits from our investors. As we are in this frequency, we are able to set the current price of the particular stock class. We do have an offering for all types of qualified investors, stemming really from the smaller investors who need to diversify more their investments, and they can do so. So even 40,000 euro can be diversified into multiple qualified investor funds, and then one particular investment in a stock class or in a fund can be from 4,000 euro. But this can only hold true if the investor diversifies within the same investment company. So in our case, it's Amista. And Amista has a lot of different strategies and funds that investors can choose. So for example, there is the Rockaway Ventures, which is focused on investments in typical venture capital in startups or scale-ups. There is, for example, some hydrogen, focused on hydrogen technology, stain industry, focused on some manufacturing firms, a typical private equity company, focused on the traditional sectors. Fortiva, focused on renewable energy, or Artifin, which is art, some nice pieces of art, paintings, and so on. So that's an offering for the smaller investors. For the larger ones who prefer to invest full 40K into one fund, we have the 2 stock classes as described before. And then for for institutional investors or some VIP investors, we do have a special stock class where we expect a systematic, consistent return of 12 to 13% on annual basis. And this stock class, it is defined as 8% of preferred return plus 50% of performance based on let's say on what is generated beyond this 8%. Just a quick overview of our key partners as auditor, depositor, and appraiser, for your information, as well as the information of our ISIN. So both of our stock classes can be distributed internationally, and both of our stock classes are currently denominated in Czech crowns, but we are already working on opening a new stock class also in euro during this year. And just to add upon, as a last mention, we are also active as an expert group, as we want to have a very good overview of what is going on in the market. We are doing multiple analysis to define our strategy, to assess the particular opportunities, but also to know on monthly basis on what is happening exactly in particular market segments and in particular locations. You might find our analysis also in media. We are also publishing those on our web, on our LinkedIn site. And that's what leads me already to finish up my speech and open up for your questions, which I'm sure there will be many. And as mentioned, and as I know that it's not that straightforward to ask questions over this YouTube live stream, that's because we want that's why we wanted to facilitate it the discussion a bit, and we have prepared some FAQs which are also marked with numbers. So if you want to place this such particular question, just write down the number on the right hand side from the window with the live stream, and you should be we will be able to see it in a second, and we can go deeper in the topic. Or if you prefer to, of course, do ask your own questions, and happy to answer any question that will come through.